I want to fight the writers. Hello, it's Rachel. Today I'm discussing Kung Fu Season 3, Episode 12. To be honest, I didn't really want to talk about this episode because it was infuriating. But a lot happened, so I figured it's worthwhile to make a review, especially since the finale is next week, or at this point in a few days. um, So I hadn't mentioned in last week's review that Zhao left a mark on Mia during the fight, and that ended up being way more significant than I had been prepared for. So the mark turns out to be a symbol that Zhao had used when creating the warrior and guardian bloodlines. And Zhao is using that mark to steal the power back from Mia. So as Mia starts to grow ill, Nikki loops Ryan in on what happened in the hopes that he can come up with some kind of antidote to save her life. Ryan has some ideas, including finding that flower that had warned them that Zhao was nearby. But as they're on quite the clock to save Mia, he unfortunately does not manage to create it in time before she dies. And now, this is like 10 minutes into a 40 plus minute episode, and I'm already angry. So it's not a good sign for how the rest of the episode is going to go. But this was so deeply upsetting because it demonstrates that the writers just did not care about Mia as her own character, and that she only mattered to the writers as how she was a prop for whatever narrative they wanted to tell. And that's a shitty way to feel about a character who's pretty prominent. Like, she was part of the main cast last season, I think. Like, if it shouldn't feel like a person who's part of the main cast is only a prop and doesn't matter beyond that. Like, Mia spent the entirety of last season suffering and quite literally being hunted by Russell and nearly died a handful of times just for her to come back for like literally 10 minutes and get killed off. Like, she had a tumultuous relationship with her mom as a teen. She comes back, learns her mom is dead. She's thrown into the chaos of people trying to kidnap her. And Nikki promises a new family to, like, basically recover from all of this. But Nikki kept withholding info from her. Like, it takes the whole season for Mia to find peace and happiness. And that pretty much happens off screen because we get a glimpse of her at the monastery for like 2 seconds in the season 2 finale. And then as soon as she re enters the story, she's dying. Like, don't get me wrong, sometimes a character is created for the purpose of fulfilling a certain role, and the priority is they were created to further whatever story the writer wants to tell. But for it to be blatantly obvious and like the writers could not even pretend to give a fuck about Mia, that means it's not good writing. Like, she should matter beyond being a warning shot for the Shens. Once Nikki and Jalan return from China, though, they learn that Henry has been MIA. And they quickly come to the suspicion that he was taken by Zhao. As we know, Zhao has been torturing Henry, trying to get him to use his compass powers so she can find all the descendants of the warrior and guardian bloodlines. And it turns out that her plan has been to erase the bloodlines and harness that power herself. Henry does his best to stay strong during Zhao's attempts, including a moment where she disguised herself as Nikki, and in my opinion, she said some very obvious wish fulfillment dialogue. So, like, as soon as she came through the door, I was like, that's not Nikki. But Henry he almost bought it, but he stayed strong. And he somehow psychically calls out to Nikki, which Zhao uses as her way in to access his abilities. Nikki and Jalan arrive to save Henry, but it's too late to stop Zhao from using the compass. As Zhao vanishes, Jalan realizes she has been marked, and we quickly see that Mei Li and all the Shen siblings have the mark as well. So now we have another clock to race against, as Jalan presumes Mia took longer to die, as she was a combination of the two bloodlines. Ryan continues to do what scientific research he can, but he's a bit out of his depth, obviously, as Zhao deals with magic. Nikki has the idea to reach out to Bo, and he is too good. He decides to come and hear her out. um, and Bo ends up telling a story about this kind of fruit that has anti-magic powers that he used when he was stuck in that other realm as a kid. And he offers to get the fruit for Nikki. Nikki insists on making the journey with him, and when they get there, there is some being guarding the tree and trying to stop them from getting a piece of the fruit. Bo has the idea to distract this being in a fight while Nikki grabs the fruit. And the fight gets pretty intense. It's a situation of Bo either dies or he kills this being. And so Bo kills the being. But this move damns Bo to being trapped in this dimension, as the shadow creatures will now follow him wherever he goes. So Bo, again, a grooming victim, was forced to return to a place of immense trauma and then had to sacrifice himself so as to not damn the outside world to these creatures. That's what the writers decided to tell me. Like, in the writers' eyes, Bo had to die as punishment for being a grooming victim. Like, is that not insane to anyone else? Do I live in a bizarro world where that's not a despicable writing decision? Again, I cannot think of any reason for the writers to detest him other than the fact that he was an obstacle to Nikki and Henry getting back together. And, like, it's just insane that that is driving so much hatred. Like, the writers purposely went hard on Nikki and Bo's romance for the purpose of being able to use Bo as a punching bag as soon as we learn that he's the harvester. And, like, I know I keep mentioning he's a grooming victim, but it's deranged that the writers can reveal that and then have Nikki nearly beat him to death, and then have other characters threaten to do the same, where it's like treated as a joke. And then the fact that the writers didn't cut the scene at Bo saving Nikki, that they felt the need to show the audience that he got swarmed by those creatures in the other realm as you hear him screaming in pain. Like, it literally proves how much the writers hated him. Like, it genuinely makes me sick to my stomach. Like, there was no need to show that other scene. And you can, like, feel the writer's satisfaction. Like, it's clear they think Bo deserved a painful death for being a grooming victim. Like, I can't get over this. I can't. Like, I'm at the point where the only thing I care to see in the finale is Paling and Jalan's reunion, because at this point I think anything else that happens in the finale is going to be frustrating. And, like, sorry, not sorry, I don't give a fuck about Nikki and Henry anymore. Like, their dynamic this season has been unbearably annoying. And I say that as someone who was obsessed with them in season 1. But, like, the writers just made Henry so fucking bland last season. And then, like, when they reunited, like, I'm still not over how nasty he was to her when they reunited. Because the entitlement to assume that he could just pick up after leaving and not giving her any answers, and it's been months. And then he got, like, pissed when he heard that she was seeing someone else. Like, I'm over it. I'm over it. Nikki and Bo outsold, but then the writers had to destroy that by making Bo the harvester. And I think on some level they knew that they outsold Nikki and Henry, And that's why they just like have so much vitriol towards Bo, and why they did everything they could to damage that relationship. Anyway, I didn't mean to become so passionate about Bo, especially since I was like indifferent to him at the beginning of the season. But literally, he was a good person who'd been brainwashed. And then the writers really said he deserved to die painfully, and we should be happy because Nikki didn't manage to break through his conditioning fast enough. Like, what the hell? Also, I gotta say, it's fucking insanity that the season 2 finale spent like half of the episode dedicated to Russell Tan's stupid fucking sob story, as if he didn't literally murder his own daughter. But no, we gotta watch Bo screaming in pain as he's like literally being mauled to death because fuck him for trusting Zhao when she positioned herself as his savior when he was a terrified child. Like it's just so disgusting the way the writers treated Bo. And I'm gonna be upset about it for a long time. But as I was saying before I got caught up in my rant, Bo sacrificed himself and he sends Nikki back home with the fruit. So, the antidote gets made, Henry drinks it and uses his compass power to, I guess, transfer that antidote to every bloodline descendant, which don't ask me about the logistics. It doesn't make sense. It's what the show is telling me happened. I don't understand, but yes. The Shens and Jalon pretty much immediately recover. Although Nikki and Jalon have noticed that while the antidote stopped Zhao from taking their lives, it did not stop her from stealing their powers. So we're going into the finale with Zhao being all powerful, including her now having mind control. For some reason, the writers decided that was going to be a power she got. Um, while anyone who fights her is just a normal human. I'm guessing the anti-magic fruit will probably come into play to depower Zhao because otherwise I cannot conceive of any possible way to take her down. But at this point, who fucking knows? Because ever since we came back from hiatus, there's just been so much coming out of left field. So I can't even begin to guess what we should expect. Cuz it's been all over the place. Um I'm not looking forward to the finale at all. Except for the Paling and Jalon reunion, as I mentioned before. I'm presuming that the writers suspected this would be the final season because it really feels like they're trying to wrap up everything because things are feeling final with Althea getting that NSA recruitment pitch and Mei Li giving up the restaurant to work with Sebastian. With this episode, with the reveal that Nadia's pregnant, um, it really feels like they're trying to finalize things for most of the characters. And Jin winning the election too, I forgot to mention that. I have a really difficult time imagining a fourth season given how fundamentally they've changed things since even the start of this season. Um, and I mean, given all the CW cancellations recently, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't make the cut. Anyway, if you made it to the end of this and you have any thoughts on the episode, feel free to leave a comment. Um, I don't see a ton of people talking about this show, so it'd be nice to chat with people if they want to talk about it. Um, please continue to wear your masks and stay safe. And I'll catch you guys next week for the finale. Bye.